Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to be talking about how you're going to plan your legend. So far we've read a few legends, and now you're going to be creating your own legend. So, what is that going to look like? Well, let's review the characteristics of a legend first. All of these characteristics have been in all of the legends that we've read so far, and they're also going to be in your legend that you write. So, it has to have a realistic setting from long ago. It has to have a hero who has positive characteristics, has to have a problem that the hero has to solve. Sometimes this will be caused by an anti-hero, but your story does not have to have an anti-hero if you don't want there to be one. It also has to have a truth about a real thing or place, meaning something that came into creation or was created because of the events in your story. Something that's real, like something that you would find in the world around us. It has to have elements of cultural life, so depending on what culture you want the story to be from, it will have different elements of that culture in it. It should also have mystical elements and hyperbole or exaggeration, so something magical happens, something that, would not be normal to see in everyday life. And a solution created by the hero, so this solution has to be in response to the actual problem that the hero faced in the story. And finally, in the end, there should be a lesson that is learned by the characters or by us, the reader. So, what are some legends that we have looked at? Well, first we looked at the story of Jumping Mouse, which told us about how the eagle was created. Then we read the story, The Legend of the Blue Bonnet, which told us how the blue bonnet wildflower was created. And finally, we read The Legend of the Indian Paintbrush, which told us how the Indian paintbrush wildflower was created. So all of these stories talk about how some real true thing in life was created, whether it was the eagle, the bluebonnet, or the Indian paintbrush. So now it's going to be your job to actually choose your own example of something from nature that was created and write a legend about it. So you could choose a wildflower or a plant like the bluebonnet or the Indian paintbrush. You could choose something like that. Say you really have a favorite flower or a favorite plant maybe that you wanted to write about. That's fine. You could choose that. You could choose a wild animal like the eagle in the story of Jumping Mouse. You could choose maybe your favorite wild animal if you wanted to. Has to be a wild animal. It cannot be a domestic animal. Or you could pick a natural feature of the land like a mountain, a lake, an ocean. Make it specific though. So if you're choosing a mountain, maybe you would choose Mount Kilimanjaro as in the story of how that mountain was created, or Lake Michigan, how Lake Michigan was created, or the Pacific Ocean, how the Pacific Ocean was created. So make it specific. Or you could actually pick a natural phenomenon like lightning, thunder, clouds, hurricanes, tornadoes, something that has to do with weather that would be, something that you would be explaining the origin or creation of. So that's kind of your choices. You're going to pick one of these four options as the basis for your legend, just like the bluebonnet, the Indian paintbrush, and the eagle were the basis for the three legends that we read. So how are you going to split this up? Well, it's going to be organized into the beginning of your essay, which is going to introduce the hero and describe their positive characteristics. You're going to introduce the setting also in the beginning, which is describing when and where your legend takes place. You would describe if there is an anti-hero and how do they make it hard for the hero to reach their goals, but like I said earlier, you do not have to have an anti-hero in your story. Because of the nature of legends and how it's storytelling, I can't tell you for sure how long your beginning is going to be. Maybe it'll be a paragraph, maybe it'll be two, maybe it'll be four short paragraphs. I can't tell you that, boys and girls, so instead of saying, oh, this is a 5-paragraph essay that you're doing, I'm saying that you're splitting it up into a beginning, a middle, and an end. So this is what would be in the beginning portion of your story. How about the middle? What are you going to do in the middle? You're going to introduce the problem, which means what obstacle does the hero have to overcome in this story? What's going on? What's the issue here that is standing in the way of the hero reaching some sort of goal? And then I need you to describe how the hero responds to that problem. So do they come up with a plan? Do they struggle to, come up with a plan? What do they do in response to the problem? So for instance, in the story of the blue bonnet, The little girl in the story is the hero, and her response to the drought and hearing that the spirits wanted them to make a sacrifice was to think about it and realize that her doll was the sacrifice. So she made a plan, she went up onto the hill, and she burned her doll as a sacrifice to the spirits. That was her responding to the problem. So what do you have to do for the end of your story? Well, you have to tell us, how is the problem solved by the hero? Does it work in the end what they decide to make the solution? How does this result in the creation of your flower or your animal or your natural feature, depending on what you've chosen as the basis for your legend? How did the story of Jumping Mouse end in the creation of the eagle? Well, it wasn't until he actually gave up his sight and his sense of smell that he made it to the far off land. And once he was there, Magic Frog actually bestowed upon him a new gift, which was turning him into this eagle. So that was kind of the solution to the problem. So you would have to describe that in depth and how that happens. And finally, how do the characters feel at the end of the story? Are they relieved? Are they sad? Are they honored by their people, like the two heroes in the Blue Bonnet and the Indian Paintbrush were? And what lesson did they learn from all this? Did they learn anything? Did the characters learn something? Does the reader learn something? What do you think? So you would have to describe that as well. So at the end, you're going to make sure you go back and form a checklist. Do you have all the different elements that you need for a legend? Does it have a realistic setting from long ago? Does it have a hero with positive characteristics? Does it have elements of cultural life, truth about a real part of nature, mystical elements and hyperbole, and a problem and solution with a lesson learned? You need to make sure that you have all of these things in order to get full credit for your creation of a legend, okay? So that's just a breakdown of what you're going to do in your different paragraphs. Like I said, this isn't a clear-cut thing. I can't tell you that you're going to have 3 paragraphs, a beginning paragraph, a middle paragraph, and an end paragraph, because every time you put in dialogue, you're going to be skipping a line and indenting for a new paragraph. So to tell you exactly how many paragraphs you're going to be writing is not possible for me to do. So basically, you just have to make sure you're doing all of these things using descriptions, dialogue, different descriptions of events, descriptions of characters, and what their reactions are. As long as you've done everything that's in these checklists and in these descriptions here for your different parts of your story, you've pretty much done your job. But how are you going to plan this out? Well, planning is the first phase. Before we start actually writing, I want you guys to ask yourself some questions and decide what's going to be in your story. So first you're going to ask yourself, where and when does your story take place? Do you want to take place in a forest, in a desert, in Texas, in New York? Where do you want it to take place? But remember, it's always going to take place a very long time ago. So not in a time when there are cities or towns, but long, long ago. Who is your hero going to be? Is it going to be a little boy? Is it going to be a little girl? Is it going to be an animal hero? Who is the hero of your story? What are their positive characteristics? What makes them, so great? Are they brave? Are they creative? Are they generous? What is so great about them? Why are they a hero? What is the problem in your legend? Is there a drought? Is there something else wrong? Is someone sick? Is someone lost? What's the problem in the legend? Try and make it something creative and different than something that we've read in our legend so far. Is there an anti-hero? If so, how do they get in the way of your hero solving the problem? What is your hero going to do about the problem? Do they have a plan? How does your hero solve that problem? How does this result in the creation of your chosen thing, whether you chose a mountain or an animal or a plant? And what lesson do we learn from this story? There has to be some sort of lesson that we learn, whether it's to be faithful or creative or brave or whatever it is, there has to be some sort of lesson learned. So now that you know what it is that we're going to be doing, what do you do now? Well, you have to first choose one of the following to tell a legend about. You're going to choose a wildflower or plant, a wild animal, natural feature of the land, or a natural phenomenon. If you can't think of one, just pick one at random. Pick something that, you think you could create an interesting story about. You may not use any of the characters, problems, or solutions from any of the legends that we have read. Come up with something new. This is your chance to be creative and come up with a really fun story. you're going to log on to Study Island and complete the Planning My Legend assignment, which lists all of those questions that we went over a couple slides ago that you have to answer about what's going to be in your story. Remember, this is just the planning phase. You're not actually writing your story here. You're just planning out your ideas. So who's your hero going to be? Is it going to be a girl? Is it going to be a boy? Are they going to be brave? Are they going to be creative? You have to plan all this out. So this assignment is meant to help you plan out your thoughts before you start writing. And you're going to make sure you answer all questions completely before submitting your assignment, because I'm going to take a look at this assignment and give you feedback, whether you need some more information or need to tweak some things, change some things before you actually start writing. But if you don't, you'll notice I will submit your thing, or I won't even bother sending it back to you. I'll just tell you via a message that you're good to go to start writing. And hopefully on Monday we will be ready to start our writing. But we're going to take the next few days to work on this one planning assignment, because if you change your mind, you want to change a couple things in your planning, now is the time to do that and really think through this. So once you submit your planning, I can give you feedback if you need to make any changes. If not, you'll be ready for next week. So please let me know if you have any questions, boys and girls, and I will talk to you again soon.